Hello YouTubers. Well, one or two of you have asked me if I will read one of my stories again, which of course I will do. It's going to be rather long, so rather than extend it any further than it needs to be, I will put some explanations in the description box. So I will read you a story which I have called Ma Rainey. And there's no prizes for guessing why that name came to my mind. You didn't mess with Ma Rainey. It wasn't that we were scared, but then you never knew for certain. That is until Jimmy Saunders came to the village. Monday mornings were always a pain. First lesson was geography with Miss Johnson, but that Monday morning started off worse than most. David Richardson and me got involved in a pushing match, both of us trying to squeeze between the desks to claim a seat on the back row to sit next to Althea Brown. Althea would be described in today's parlance as intellectually challenged, and at 13 was a year older than the rest of us. I lost. And it was while I was grovelling on the floor to gather up the spilt contents of my bag that Miss Johnson came in with Jimmy Saunders at her side. He was small. A mop of curly red hair topped a cherub-like face made owl-like by his round framed glasses. All three buttons of his red blazer were buttoned, the tops of his grey socks meticulously turned over to display the 3 red stripes, and his pristine white shirt was tucked inside his trousers. "Quiet! What are you doing, Peter?" "I dropped my bag, miss." "Well, come down here and sit at the front where I can see you." Richardson kicked me as I bent down to pick up my bag. Althea sniggered. "We have a new boy joining the class today. His name is James Saunders and he has just come to live in our area from London. I'm sure you'll make him very welcome and introduce him to the delights of our lovely school and the surroundings." She tenderly shepherded the boy like a collie herding a sheep into a pen and sat him down next to me. "You can sit down there for the time being. We've been discussing the ecology of America in the last 2 lessons. Today we'll start with a bit of revision and identify some of the states, and then later discuss the economies of some of them, by which I mean the industries and lifestyles and how they are coloured by their position, climate and terrain. America is a very large continent with wide ranges of temperatures, vast areas of deserts and mountains, as well as highly developed industrial areas." James looked straight ahead with wide-eyed attention, as though he knew what the hell she was talking about, as she pinned the large map onto the blackboard. Pointing to the map, she said, "Can anybody tell me the name of this state?" James' arm shot up like a bowler appealing to the umpire for an LBW decision. "Texas, miss." Those 2 words, articulated in an accent like a Radio 3 announcer, quietened the general noise of the class as we searched for pens, books and sweets from our bags as efficiently as if a gun had been fired. Althea sniggered. "Yes. Very good. And what would you think the temperature would be in that latitude?" "Hot, miss." We relaxed in the mistaken belief that she would let James answer all her questions, since he obviously was capable. Peter, can you give me the name of another state?" "Florida?" "Yes, and can you tell me where it is?" "It's the little bit that hangs down somewhere near the middle." Althea sniggered. "Yes, quite right. And can anyone else tell us what industries we would find there?" She dragged answers from individuals with as much difficulty as one has in reaching that elusive piece of snot. Dick said film stars, Evelyn said Disneyland, and then all knowledge was exhausted, although of course James' arm was erect throughout. I was thinking something that is of monumental importance in the development of the modern world of science and technology, which I would have thought that all of you would know. We all looked blank until she was forced to respond to James's signal. The NASA rocket launching sites, miss. Yes, yes. She beamed down at him. He smirked with pride. I could see that we were going to have a word with our posh little Einstein. We took Miss Johnson's request of a friend the nerd to heart and invited him to join us in the woods. Dave hoped and expected to meet Althea. Let's see if he dared put his hand up her knickers and then allow her to unzip his trousers, as she always did for Dave. It doesn't look like she's coming, Dave said. Never mind, it's a treat we'll save for you for another night. Let's go and annoy old Ma Rainey. Who's Ma Rainey? She's a witch who lives in the old horse-drawn caravan on the other side of the wood. Don't be silly, there's no such thing as a witch. You know it all, don't you? I don't suppose you have witches in London. I told you there's no such thing, that's just something people tell you to scare you. Well, I bet you daren't go within 100 yards of the place. Of course I dare, but it's not very nice to just go and annoy someone for no reason. We have got a reason. It's a laugh. She won't care. She's crazy. Come on, we'll show you. We left the path to climb a bank that would lead us to the vantage point overlooking but a safe distance away from Ma Rainey's sight, a route we'd taken many times before. Dave led the way, pushing through brambles, ferns and branches of saplings, letting them spring back into the face of the person behind until we reached a clearing. One branch of the oak tree there stretched out horizontally at a height of about 4 feet, its surface denuded of foliage and polished smooth where we had sat on it in order to bounce furiously until its violent oscillations threw the weakest one of us off. Dave stopped, placed his back against the branch and took 2 strides away from it. I knew what was coming. He turned on the spot like a well-trained rugby player, pacing the yardage for his run-up to kick the winning conversion, and unzipped his jeans. The stream of piss formed a perfect arc as it travelled over the branch, holding its trajectory for what seemed like a full 5 seconds. Dave punched the air with both fists in a triumphant salute. Yes! I smiled, enjoying his success, especially because the nerd had been there to witness it. I'd never managed to achieve it. If I was close enough, I couldn't get the height and vice versa, and admitted to Dave's superiority in this field. Dave completed his Olympian performance by pushing back his bum, and his cock sprang back as if on elastic, his arms still raised in salute. James looked embarrassed, and I imagined a sign above his head reading, "Now wash your hands." Right, we must be quiet now. We're nearly there. The caravan lay beneath us in a clearing next to the stream. The embers of a fire glowed in the gathering gloom of the evening. A cauldron hung above it on a pole supported by 2 wooden tripods. Hanging from a similar arrangement were 3 rabbits, their back legs joined together with the foot of one threaded through the tendon of the other. The slits in their gutted bellies were held open with a stick, rather like a surgeon might use a retractor to hold open his incision. 2 crows hung by their necks from the branch of a tree. As we moved among the ferns, the lurcher got up from his position at the bottom of the steps leading to the open door of the caravan and growled. Ma Rainey appeared at the doorway. It was difficult to see her against the faint glow of light from inside, but she presented a frightening figure in her long black dress. Her long raven-coloured hair flowed over the multicoloured shawl around her shoulders, and in her hand was a smoker's pipe. Her features were not discernible, and she seemed more like a clothed skeleton than a living being. "Who's there?" Dave put his hands to his mouth and let out a wolf-like howl. "I know who you are. No good will come of your pranks. The moon is in the ascendant. The stars are positioned in my favour. My curse is on you. Beware, my stupid boys." Dave howled again. "I don't see what you're frightened about," Jimmy said. "She's just an old woman who's a bit deranged. I'd quite like to talk to her." "Well, go on then, I dare you." The nerd's altruistic intentions weren't reciprocated. We could see him standing within 3 feet of her. They were talking, but what they were saying couldn't be heard among the noise of the barking chained-up dog, but it was clear from Ma Rainey's gesticulations that she didn't wish for his company. We could have told him that. "That was pretty stupid of you. What did she say?" "Oh, I don't know, a load of rubbish about the moon and the stars, and that her curse would bring me bad luck and to keep away and stuff." "Poor old lady. She's very old and must have had a hard life. It's very sad. But we'll have to hurry home now, please. My mum doesn't want me to be out after dark." It seems that James, apart from being brainy, was a good athlete, and by the time we turned the corner of the lane leading to the village, he was 100 yards ahead of us. We heard the scream and saw him stumble onto the grass verge. When we reached him, he was face down in the ditch. We turned him over and dragged him back onto the verge. His glasses had been knocked off, and he looked like he might be dead. His hands were on his throat, and as we watched, the colour in his cheeks and lips changed from pink to purple. "Shit, is he dead? What should we do?" "I don't know. Is he breathing?" "I don't know. I can't see any movement. You stay here with him. I'll run to the doctor's house." "No, you stay. No, you stay. I'll go." We both ran. We hadn't enough breath to explain it all, but we heard the noise of the spinning wheels of the doctor as the doctor gunned his car out of the drive. The doctor's wife phoned for an ambulance. "Shall I phone your parents and tell them what has happened?" No, we replied in unison. "It's all right. We'll tell them." I went to my room, lay on my bed shaking and sweating with fright. Poor old woman be buggered, but it wasn't our fault. We didn't make him go. Things were very quiet at school for the rest of the week. Everyone had heard of the incident and questioned us, but we only told them of him falling into the ditch and us fetching the doctor. It seemed that it was only because the doctor had been able to perform an emergency operation before the ambulance arrived that James had survived, and they seemed to think it was our quick action that saved him. Looking back, I was pleased that Althea hadn't turned up, because she wouldn't have been able to keep her mouth shut. On Monday morning, Miss Johnson started her lesson with one of her speeches. "We're very pleased to see James back with us after his frightening experience. What an unfortunate introduction to his new life with us. It was, as you may know, just an unusual and rare accident. It seems that James has an allergy to wasp stings. Not something that was very uncommon, but in poor James' case, it seems that he was stung in the mouth, which resulted in a swelling which restricted his breathing. We have to compliment these friends that he was with, who acted with great maturity and presence of mind in getting help as quickly as they did. But I would say to you all," and her gaze went towards Dave and Althea, "the woods are a particular place to avoid. It can be a very dangerous place to play." And Althea sniggered.